Oh, your brother's done a runner.
Nah, he's just genuinely disappointed with it, that's all.
This week's movie, Who Am I? I'm a fun-seeking little girl living in a boring world who finds adventure through a magic door to a parallel plane. Soon I begin to realise that this wonderful place is hiding something sinister under the surface. Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to the Banana Reel Movie Podcast, episode 36. Warning, this show does contain spoilers and coarse language, so you've been forewarned. Hey there, folks. We are the Theatre Gorillas. My name is Carlos.
I'm Heath.
And I'm Dan.
And each and every week we get together and review a movie and just give our opinions. Anyway,
That's how it works?
yeah.
Generally how it works.
That always sounds better in my head. Anyway, so you can get us at our website, which is theatregorillas.com. Twitter is @theatregorillas. And Facebook is facebook.com/theatregorillas. Of course, we're on YouTube. Just search for us. And you can always get us via email, theatregorillas@gmail.com, all spelt the UK English way.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this week we are looking at Legend, which is a historical look in probably a little bit glamorised of one of UK's famous gang members.
Crime syndicates, you'd almost say. They were gang members, but they controlled in, a part of the late 50s and 60s, a large portion of the London underground crime syndicates. And controlled a lot of the crime that was going on in that area.
Yeah. So this movie actually stars Tom Hardy, Christopher Eccleston, Joshua Hill, Emily Browning, and Tom Hardy.
Yes, Tom Hardy.
Yes, Tom Hardy
playing
too.
Both the identical twins, the Kray brothers.
And starting off, the plot of this movie is quite simple. It's just a look on the lives of the Kray twins.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's not much to the actual story itself. But what I find interesting is that I was kind of expecting this to be sort of more about a tale of the crime itself that they commit and so forth. And really that's more of a backseat in this story. It's more of this, I wouldn't say a love triangle, but the relationship between Emily Browning's character and the twins.
Yes.
How it sort of goes into play, and also how one of the twins, Ron, how he's so crazy.
Yes.
That he likes certain people and he absolutely hates others.
And he doesn't mind showing that with his fists or with his mouth either.
Well, I was going to say with hammers, really.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
But what I find interesting is that the way this movie plays out is you're led to believe that Ron's the insane one, when really Reggie's the one that completely loses it by the end.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And it's almost as well, not that he's the insane one, or, because you do. I mean, as we get introduced to Ron, he's already in a psychiatric hospital, being there for his psychiatric tendencies for violence as well. And
clinically speaking, he is insane.
He is, absolutely.
But behavior-wise, he seems like the more level of the two by the end, which is, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that it's more as well, he has the more violent outbursts, more frequent, where Reggie's more, he's insane as well, but more calculating, more devious in his insanity.
Calculating is a good word for it.
Yeah, exactly right. And especially by the end, after, all the shit's happening, and the way that he treats Emily Browning's character, Frances, who's his wife. Oh, fuck. The turning point where I found that I just disliked him immensely.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
At first, they play him off as somewhat like the charming gangster, right?
Yes. Suave, charming, handsome, all of it.
Yeah, and as it goes through, you realise what he actually does behind the scenes. He doesn't necessarily do it so much. He might get someone else to do it. I mean, it's explained in the beginning. He's the one that does the intimidation.
Yes.
Ron scares the crap out of people, but they're actually really terrified of Reggie.
Yes, exactly right. Because, and you see it when very early on in the film, when he goes to where he kind of first meets Frances, when he goes over to their house because they're getting her older brother.
Yeah.
And, knocking on the door, the moment that he sees Reggie at the door, the look on, I'm trying to remember what the brother's name was.
Colin Morgan played Frank Shay.
Frankie, that's it, Frankie.
Yeah.
The look on his face was, holy fuck, I'm in shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the because I'm about to get the shit kicked out of me. It's because something worse could happen.
Yeah,
So
right.
I better make sure I do something to get myself out of this.
Yeah. I've pissed off my boss and it's probably
Yeah.
going to mean my life.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
I always find it interesting with these sort of biopic movies to sort of work out where they start the story. So obviously in this, like they were already sort of kingpins by the
Yes.
time the story actually starts.
Yeah.
So there's nothing about sort of their growing up or anything that led them on the path that they're on.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's a bit of a failing here in that they don't really explore the motivations of Reggie and Ronnie that much. It's much more sort of a storyline of what happened.
Well, yeah, which is very true. But one thing, see, I think they don't need to, because in way it kind of gets established is, you know, when they're first walking down the street and he's there, he's saying hello to everyone, he's helping out the old ladies, he's helping people out because he's almost like the Robin Hood of the area kind of thing.
Well, at least people probably are afraid of him that much that they give him the respect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're, who knows what could happen.
It could.
Yeah,
I mean, that as well. But I get it that he grew up in that area. Like he and his brother, they grew up in that area. In that area, it was very poor. They probably had to fight a lot for the things that they had. Now that that probably led them down this life of crime and deception, which then he kind of then felt obligated, or not obligated, but felt like the need to help others in that same situation. And granted, it did mean that he was generally taking advantage of a lot of people, but at the same time, it was got that whole, like I said, that Robin Hood kind of mentality of giving back to the masses, to the poor.
I actually find it funny that the way the movie is starting, as he's walking down the street, you don't see what he's doing exactly. It's all shot from behind him. And then right at the last minute, you see 2 cups of tea.
Yeah.
And you're introduced by the police that are following him.
Yes, that I loved as well.
Yeah.
And that to me sort of sets this tone of not so much tongue in cheek, but it's like, I really can't give a shit what you do. I know you're following me, and I'm not going to let you find anything anyway. So here you are, just to distract you.
Yeah, exactly right.
And piss you off because I know you're there.
And it's like, wasn't one of the coppers was kind of like, oh yeah, thanks.
One of the coppers was Doctor Who, so I'm surprised he didn't get him sooner.
Yeah, well, that's true. Time Lord. And that's it as well. It's like, but when, and he was all pissed off. And I think that's a good touch as well. And like you said, it's because he comes through and shows, it's almost like a bit of like over self-confidence of, you're not going to catch me. It's fine. I can give you a cup of tea. It's good.
I think at that point, going from the movie at that point in their lives, they bought the impression they'd set up of themselves as untouchable.
Yes, totally.
As these big sort of, as they're head of a giant organization, too big to fail sort of thing.
Yes. Well, I mean, and that's, I think when you say the untouchable thing, because we'll just look at, once again, at the beginning of the movie, Ronnie's in a psychiatric facility.
Yeah.
And through Reggie's, I don't know what he's done, gets him an early release.
Yeah.
So who's he bought off? What's he done? And that alone, like to have that power to get someone who's been put in by a court into a psychiatric hospital to have them released early. It's basically early release from prison.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so
that's a lot of weight had to be pulled there.
Yeah, definitely.
There's actually a lot of that throughout the movie, that things happen behind the scene and they talk about people that you never meet, or actions happen that you have no idea how they came about. I don't know, maybe I wasn't quite paying attention, but I found there was a lot of that going on, whereas if you don't know the history of these people, you might miss out on those sort of aspects.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until towards the end of the film where Ron gets really upset to the point where he wanted to take out one of their partners.
Yes.
Because he's just never liked this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he called him a faggot or something as well.
His excuse was simply he knows too much.
Yeah, that's right.
Which puts Reggie into the whole the whole crazy sort of speech of, do you know that we do this? Do you know that we do that? All going all around the room, pointing to all their accomplices.
Yeah.
And they're all like, yeah, of course we do. And it's like, Jesus, everyone knows too much. It's like,
yeah.
And then
we'll
you realize exactly at that moment what it is they actually do.
Yeah.
And how they get their money.
Oh, yeah, totally. And they were involved in everything.
I mean, they even got into the casino business.
Yeah, gambling, drugs, prostitution, the list just went on and on. And, well, I mean, that's why they were kingpins. Yeah. They were, I mean, I think at one point, don't they end up signing a deal with an American crime family.
Yeah, that's
who's
how they get into the casino.
casino business. Exactly right. So it's basically like the mafia. They get involved in that. And Jesus, they control, and after taking on that rival gang, they virtually controlled London.
Yeah.
They controlled London.
Well, I mean, that's the way the mythos goes. Whether or not it's entirely historically accurate, is
exactly
not a question. But
in
I
the
mean,
film,
I guess,
though,
yeah,
that's what we're
in
getting.
the frame of the experience as it's presented. You mentioned sort of the mob and the way they got into the casinos and stuff.
Yes.
Did you feel like this was it drew a lot from sort of US mobster and gangster films?
I
really
felt that
good
it was
question.
kind of trying to borrow a little bit of Casino.
Yeah, for me, it felt more like an American gangster film than a British one, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just an aesthetic choice they made,
Yeah.
at the time.
Would it be because, I mean, if you really think about it, think about all the gangster films that are out or that have been around for the last so many, 30, 40 years, they're all generally around the American mafia. They're around the American underground. And so is that because, maybe that is why it kind of did appear that way, because as the filmmaker, I cannot pronounce his last name. I want to say Higgleston
or something.
Yeah. Higgledy-piggledy. Maybe because he's, that's our references. He's taken that as a choice to film it tell the story in that particular manner.
Well, he also wrote LA Confidential.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so
there you go.
He's definitely got a legacy there.
Yeah, well, there you go. Is he American?
I'm not sure, actually. Well, it was a British French production, Legend, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I have to look that up.
It kind of makes sense with the way that the movie plays out and cinematic-wise.
Yeah.
If he's already got that background, he's already into sort of telling the crime stories. And the only difference really here is that he's taken a lot of the crime out of it. Mm-hmm. It's just more of a biopic of their intimate last sort of years as those crime lords.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes, he is an American, by the way.
Well, there you go.
And not only is he American, and not only did he do LA Confidential, he also did A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
Oh, really?
Yep. And which I have to say, that's a pretty fucking good movie. So he did pretty well.
Okay.
All right, I wanted to get on to talking about the actors, and we might as well start with the glaring obvious, Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
So he's playing twins, and it's not your usual, I'll just put on a pair of glasses, which in this case it is.
It is, yeah.
But it's not just that. Like, it's not just, I'll put on a different piece of clothing and that automatically makes me the other twin. He does like a whole personification change.
Total.
Yeah, from mannerisms down
Voice,
to accent.
the way he walks and sits and breathes. His whole face almost becomes like a little lump of Play-Doh that he just reshapes.
Yeah, that's a neat way to put it.
I've always had, and I think I've said this on the podcast before when we've done stuff, I've always had a great admiration for Tom Hardy in his acting ability. This movie, I think, is a great showcase of that. Because like you said, you'd forget that you're watching the same guy playing two people. It is two separate characters. He plays them. He becomes them.
He inhabits two completely different individuals.
Exactly right. I mean, and granted, through the power of filmmaking, he's not doing it at the exact same time. He would be, this scene as that brother, this scene as that brother.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for him then to switch and swap and play two very distinct characters shows his range as an actor. Like, he's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it's true. I definitely think this movie wouldn't be anything without Hardy and his performance.
Yeah.
It definitely carried the movie, I think. Well, what would you say to that, Carlos? Do you agree?
I think so. I think this movie heavily relies on Tom Hardy, and without that performance, you're right, it just wouldn't be necessarily the same unless you were to get two different actors to actually play the two different brothers and say that they're twins, in which case it probably wouldn't work because everyone knows that they're identical. So,
Well, they actually did that in, there was a 1990 movie called The Krays, which was sort of the first cinematic run at the story, and that had the two brothers from Spandau Ballet playing the Krays.
all right.
Yeah, so
Really?
yeah.
Well,
I wonder if that worked. Did that get much for praise or anything like
Well, I'm not sure about the critical reception, but apparently the storyline there focused much more on the relationship with their mother.
that? Ah.
Yeah. So that's sort of touched on in Legend, but it's not sort of the central underpinning of the storyline.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a different approach. But
I also think that this movie, the way that Frances is played throughout the movie, she's not actually that integral to the story either.
even though she's the narrator.
I know.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because she's integral in the story because just to see how Reggie's character changes because it's through her that we see his character really develop.
Yeah, okay,
like it's his relationship with her that changes and and gets altered throughout the entire
But
film.
it's only at certain moments, and it's not all the way through because he was going to beat the living snot out of her brother when he met her.
Yeah.
And just because it could be that she answered half naked, it could be that she was just a pretty face that he liked. But that's the moment where he's like, look, I'll go a little soft today.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's other certain moments. So when they get married, obviously he's in a good mood, so forth. But as the movie progresses, they're married and she's feeling more and more distant from him.
Yes.
She's not accepted by the family. So Ron always puts up this resistance against her. And even though he claims to like her, and then the mother just can't give a shit about her. And so that drives more of a wedge between the two. And I don't know where exactly in the story they themselves, Reggie and Francis, separate.
Yeah.
But suddenly Reggie is really different to her. Like he is very abusive to her out of nowhere.
Well, see, I think it was, and that's where I go, how his character changes and develops is that he was always, I think he always had that in him. He was always that unhinged. He was always that abusive. It was just that, he used to direct it at other places and at other things, but now it started to go to the point where he directed it at his wife.
I mean, narratively speaking, it's that stereotypical sort of descent into madness of the anti-hero.
Yes.
They start off violent in their work and their career, what they're focusing on, and then it sort of spills out into the rest of their life, and then they eventually fall apart. So as far as the characterizations of the other players in this film, I felt like we said, it's centered around the performance of Tom Hardy, and I think perhaps to the discredit of some of the other performances, like they don't really get fleshed out as characters as much. They're sort of set pieces in this storyline that they're telling about the Krays,
and it's actually also how their connection to the Krays.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, you've got, and they've got some great actors, by the way. Like, some of the actors in this film are fantastic. Like,
well, I was going to say Taron Egerton, right? So he's the guy out of the Kingsman.
Yeah.
And he appears in this movie and he's kind of like one of the lapdogs, but he is so close to Ron.
Well, he's like Ron Glover.
Well, is he? Because they hint at that, but
he was,
he is, right. But the funny thing is, like, when Ron's losing his mind in the casino, in the club, and Taron Egerton's character is kind of like, just go do your stand-up or whatever, or play the trumpet.
Yeah.
The character just suddenly comes out of nowhere. He's suddenly just sort of in play.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of the characters are kind of like that. As you were saying, they're sort of like set pieces, but they're really out of place in some circumstances. There's only one or two characters who the actors give a decent performance and they're sort of like the moral support or the moral voice of these characters when they're trying to make their decision about something. But aside from that, most of the time they're just to fill the background.
Exactly,
and actually, it's funny that you say that because now I'm thinking about it more. I can kind of see what you mean.
The only sort of background character that actually comes into an important role is what do they call the character's name?
Jake the Hat.
Jake the Hat. So he's the only character that actually becomes important enough to warrant actually being there.
Yeah. So it's an interesting approach, isn't it? There's not much exposition outside of the life and times of Ronnie and Reggie.
Yeah.
Who was this Jack Hat guy? I'm trying to remember who
Jack
he was.
He's
He's the one that attempts to kill the partner.
Yeah.
And in the end is
spoilers.
Yeah. In the end is stabbed to death.
Yes, that's right. Now I'm remembering who he is.
Right.
But see,
He was the guy that Reggie went to jail for killing.
Yes, yeah. But he's also, sorry, because now I'm saying, you know how you said, he had a bit more to do. Not really. Not really. Like he was.
No. I'm saying he was the only one that was really important to be there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but again, it was just sort of he was hitting his marks as far as the storyline went.
Yeah,
so he was important because of the situation he was in, not because of the characterization of him as such.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the question: is it enough to base a film like this around the performances of, or around the life and times of the main characters, or do you feel like there should have been more sort of exposition and more of establishing the world that they lived in?
Well, I think
Maybe a little bit of both, personally.
Well, I kind of actually think it can stand on its, like, as in it does stand just to be the life and times of these two characters.
Yeah.
Because really, they are the centerpiece. They are the story.
Yeah.
It was how that was, and it was the main story of this movie was their relationship with each other, and Reggie's relationship with Francis. Like that was really, and you're right about a love triangle because now I'm more thinking about it because Ron's very jealous of the connection that Francis has with Reggie, but then in the end accepts her.
Yeah.
And of course,
but only accepts her when she's leaving.
yes, of course. But at the same time, he even the way that he says, he has that nice little dialogue to her. Where it's actually monologue because she's not really responding. But how he says, I may, not always come across as being, friendly, or I may not know how to express myself well, but I actually do always like you. And I think that was a really strong turning point for Ron. And once again, it was so really Francis almost then was a character development piece for both of them.
I also think
A plot point, if you
A
will.
plot point, yeah.
I also think the turning point for Ron was more so when he saw that his brother had been harming his wife.
Yeah, and he really didn't like that.
And that was one thing I wanted to bring up before we move on. And it's how much out of nowhere does the character Reggie just really make you hate him
Oh, yeah.
at that moment when he takes advantage of his wife.
Yeah.
And it was just disgusting, but shot well and tastefully sort of shown
Yeah.
in not showing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anyway, the actual technical performance of this movie, I think placing the one actor in the same frame on screen is very smooth.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Because
I
if
didn't
you
have
go
any
back,
issues with
if
the
you
way
go
it was
back
done.
to what was it, Double Team or something that with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, yeah.
What was that movie?
Because that's a prime
Yeah, it was called
example.
Double Team.
It was Double Team.
Yeah, it was called Double Team.
Man, you
Yeah.
could see the line that was
yeah.
joining the two films together. And the movies like this where they put the same actor in the same frame have come a long way when you look at this movie.
Yeah, true. Although I did think that there wasn't that much sort of interaction between the two of them.
No, they used it selectively.
Yeah. Except obviously when they get in the punch up.
Yeah. It's actually, when you talk about other technical, like in the shooting of how things were, how different scenes were shot, I think some of the fight scenes or some of the like that bar fight between the other gang,
Yeah.
that was one of the most brutal fucking fight scenes.
Yeah,
Very
they
well
don't-
choreographed. It felt heavy. Like when he's hitting with that hammer, it felt like that guy got hit with that hammer.
Yeah.
It was really well shot, really well done. The director made some very good, I should say the cinematographer made some very good choices with the way that this movie was shot and the way it was polished. It was very well done.
Yeah, definitely. It was
Yeah.
really nicely shot. Yeah. And that sort of oversaturated neutral tone sort of look to it.
Yeah, kind of like a happy-go-lucky
Yeah.
feel to this movie.
Yeah, so it's sort of trying to present the idea of the 60s without borrowing the actual aesthetics that would have been used in film at the time.
Yeah.
So it still looks like a modern movie, but it's got sort of the color grading is sort of reminiscent of the 60s.
It helps when you have set pieces like the cars.
Yeah. The period clothing, the period style.
Yeah, I mean,
decoration.
And England hasn't changed a great deal in certain areas that you can just take a camera and you can still get that look and feel.
Well, that street that at the beginning that he's walking down.
Yeah.
I've walked down that street in London in 2005, and it's exactly the fucking same.
Yeah. So it helps when you've got set pieces like that to actually bring that out too.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is regarding that fight scene, I just wanted to go back quickly.
Yeah.
Fucking best opening line to start a fight.
Yeah, it's then that entire actual opening, like the dialogue between where he talks about, you're going to bring this to a fight, and he's
I was expecting a bloody gunfight.
and he's there, he's got his shotgun. It's like shit.
Yeah. And then he comes back in with the hammers.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
it kicks off.
But I like that as well. Like he leaves and he's there going, "Fuck this shit, fucking hell," and you're just going, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
I thought it was very smart.
Oh, it
Clearly
was.
they were outnumbered. It's like, how can we even this out?
Yeah.
I'll pretend to walk off. But I just love the whole the psychopath joke that he makes. I'm trying to remember what he says exactly, but the psychopath walks into a bar and then bam, that's it. The hammer's out.
Yeah.
In terms of the music, I thought the music was nice, like bringing out some old classics coming through and so forth. The sound editing I thought was perfectly fine. I didn't have an issue with that at all.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you only really notice it if it's great or if it's really bad. You know, as long as it's competent, you shouldn't be able to notice it that much.
Yeah.
So, I think, from a technical standpoint, I agree with you. It was perfectly serviceable. But like he said, the cinematography was great. It was really well, precisely shot as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just looking up because I'm trying to get the exact line that he was saying in the bar.
All right.
And I did find like the full dialogue, and I think he goes, "A shootout, right, is a fucking shootout. Like a Western wank is fucking embarrassing. Fucking waste of time. What a fucking waste of time." And this is as he leaves. That's as he leaves the pub. And he goes, "Well, your brother's done a runner." "Nah, he's just generally disappointed with you. That's all."
Okay, so that's taking a look at the technical side of things. Was there anything else that we've left out that you reckon it's worth mentioning on this one?
I'd like to actually, because we did talk a little bit about Emily Browning, her character in it, but we didn't really talk about her acting in this film.
I wanted to come back to that.
Yeah, because I have to say, I really like Emily Browning. She hasn't done a lot of movies, but everything I've seen her in, she does well. Like, she plays a good character. Very young, like she is still very young. She was only, I think, 27 years old, so, or younger. What year is it? Yeah.
Which is pretty old in Hollywood terms.
Yeah, but I mean, she's been around, though, since she was a little girl. Like, she's been acting, she was a child actor in Australia. She then grew up, Lemony Snicket, I think was the first film she did, and she was fantastic in that. The Host, The Uninvited. She's done some really good roles.
Yeah.
Sucker Punch. And I think she gets a little bit, considering she's been around for a while, she's doing very, very well, and I don't think she's getting enough credit. I'd really like to see her in more things. Because I thought she did a good performance. She played that character well. Granted, I know as we've been talking about it, I don't think she got enough time. Like, we didn't get enough to get to know Frances outside of the fact that she was the narrator.
It wouldn't bother me so much that she didn't get enough time. I think more so she didn't get enough substance.
Yes, and that's exactly it. So she didn't get to build enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, she played off that fragility really well. But that was sort of all that there was about her character. She's fragile, she's had mental problems in the past. That was sort of as far as it went.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
And not only, did she have the mental issues in the past and she was fragile, I think it was the fact that she was perceived as being very young in the movie.
Well, yeah.
Because when they first meet, I think she's still only a teenager.
Yeah, she would have been 18 at the time.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So she's still, a little girl. And getting into this world with this man who is arrested straight away after their wedding, that's, the world she's getting pulled into. And so that is why she's fragile.
But she knew, I find this interesting as well. She knew that and she
knew
confronted
who he was.
that.
Yep, absolutely.
She's like, well, you're just a gangster. And his reaction, I thought, was very interesting. He pauses and sort of dismisses it. And he's like, no, I'm not. And then later he's like, I'm a gang. Like, he brings it back and throws it back in her face.
Yeah.
The fact that you ever called me that.
Yeah.
But the actual interactions between the two, I think, would have been nice to explore more.
Yeah, okay.
Considering that when he's starting to date her and he's being pulled away to talk to someone that's completely irrelevant to him, he can't even give a shit what they've done, but still has to, show that he's menacing.
Yeah.
The interaction between that and going back to the date, and then you sort of just see just a glimpse of the date, and then nothing really comes about of it. Suddenly they're basically getting married.
Yeah, and it's like, and actually I know what you mean there, because you don't actually see what her reaction is to what just happened.
Well, yeah, she's also kind of kept oblivious, but...
Yeah, but if you got, imagine you're on a date, granted, but like you're on a date, and then next thing you know, the person that you're with gets pulled away by someone else.
Yeah.
You'd be there going, what the fuck?
You know what it is?
Yeah.
There should have been a point. Yeah, they should have reinforced that point where she realized that he was a hardcore gangster. Like, she was obviously in the early stages trying to deny that, like within herself. It would have been great to see that moment when she had the realization and went, oh, fuck, he is actually mental.
Yeah. He's actual gangster, not,
Yeah. And sort of the only way they represented that was with the physical sort of violence.
Yeah.
I find it interesting with her character as well that they show when it is that you see her become depressed, and like you see one of the key instances, which is her birthday.
Yeah.
And it's like, can you teach me to drive? Not today.
Yeah.
I've got things to do. It's like, it's your wife's fucking birthday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can see certain instances in her life where she becomes depressed, or she, defies her mother for falling in love with this person or marrying him. But the actual sort of development in between, their actual relationship is kind of not there.
Yeah.
which is why I kind of sort of say there's no just she acts well. There's just no substance to the character itself.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, I think that that's a prevailing, I don't know whether it's an issue, but it's a prevailing thing throughout this movie is that, you know, a lot of the characterizations suffer for the storyline, for progressing, you know, the chronological order of things.
Yeah, and that could be. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So, do you think that perhaps because it's that suffers, is it because the main focus is meant to be once again just on the two, and to progress the storyline quickly, they had to just take
absolutely,
shortcuts?
yeah. I think this movie is based on Tom Hardy's performance. You know, it's built around his performance as the Krays, and everything else is sort of secondary to that, not necessarily incidental, but it takes second seat to his performance.
It definitely does. I think, for me personally, I feel that this movie is more of a showcase of what Tom Hardy can do than an actual story about the Krays.
Yeah, definitely.
In saying that, I'm prepared to give my rating now if you guys are.
I was going to say that's actually a good segue. Let's do it.
All right. So yeah,
It doesn't really count as a segue when you say that's a segue, though.
Yeah, it does now. It's a segue. It's one of those things that rolls us around on the ground. With our
rolls
feet.
us into the next section.
Into the next section.
But
Hey, we're full of shit jokes.
Well, I'm a dad, so it's only goes hand in
Dad
hand.
joke.
at least you got an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Hooray. I finally have an excuse. So just as I just said, I know that sounds weird, I feel this movie is more of a showcase for Tom Hardy's talent. The story could have been there. It's kind of there. It's not enough. I found the movie was probably maybe half an hour too long, maybe 20 minutes too long. It just felt to drag towards the end. It did come together by the end.
Yeah.
But it felt like there was a lot of stuff in the middle of it that just wasn't entirely necessary or dragged out just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I definitely agree there, yeah.
I feel that the camera work is fine. The actors are all great. They all do their job really well. They do work together well. It's just that all the focus is just on Tom Hardy. And if you want to see how good he is at really diversifying two characters in the one film, definitely watch this movie. If you want to watch this movie to have a little bit of a backstory of the history of the twins, watch this movie. If you want to watch this movie for purely entertainment, you're probably going to get disappointed. There are some moments, but I don't think it's really a super entertaining film either. It's definitely watchable though.
Okay.
So on that note, I'm going to give this 2.5 bananas.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really good. I do hear what you mean by, though, not a lot is told about anyone else except the brothers. It's really much that. But I did see a lot, like I got a lot out of it, seeing the love triangle between the two brothers, like how much Ronald loves Reggie and how much Reggie loves Francis. Yet at the same time, the disconnect between Francis and Ronald. Look, I thought, yes, I would have liked to have seen more of Emily Browning and see more development with that character. Not disappointed that I didn't. Tom Hardy, and agree as well. Tom Hardy's fantastic. Watch him play two distinct characters. He's an amazing actor, and I'm glad that he's getting more and more popular, especially in Hollywood. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Do you need to see it more than once? Probably not. Because I did a rewatch before the podcast, so that's twice I've seen it. Did I get anything extra out of it? Nope.
Yeah.
Did I remember anything new? Nope. Did I miss anything? Nope.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm going to give this 2.5 as well.
All right.
2.5 as well. All right. So yeah, I generally agree with everything you guys said. I think, Carlos, I definitely agree that it was a little too long. Sort of felt by the last sort of 20, 30 minutes that it was dragging on a little bit. My attention started waning. And I think that's due to the fact that they tried to pack so much chronological story into it and not actual character, not so much character development or exposition, if you like.
Yep.
So it's very much, and as we said, it's a Tom Hardy movie. It's based on his performances, and I think everything else sort of suffers because of that. That being said, technically, it's really well shot. I love the color grading they did to give it sort of that retro aesthetic.
Yeah.
And everything else, technically it was perfectly competent. So, it was enjoyable, but definitely, it's a movie that stars Tom Hardy, and sort of it's not so much a movie about the Krays, if you like.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to have to agree with you guys and go for 2.5 bananas.
All right. 2.5 all around.
Yeah. So go see it if you like Tom Hardy, or you
Look,
want to see it.
I love Tom Hardy. So if just on that basis, if you like Tom Hardy, definitely watch it because it is worth a watch just to see what he can do.
Totally.
And the whole sort of 60s gangster thing is cool. It's fun. It gives him a good sort of platform to jump off.
All right, so we are the Theatre Gorillas. That was Legend, and we'll see you next week. Stay tuned for the end of the theme song to find out what this week's movie Who Am I is. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, so you stayed on for the end to find out what this week's movie Who Am I is.
And what is it? We can't work it out.
You can't work it out.
No.
It's Coraline, 2009.
Was that based on a Neil Gaiman book?
To be honest, I have no idea, but this movie is a kid's movie in essence.
Yeah.
But it is trippy, it is scary, and I'm not so sure the kids really should be watching this movie.
That sounds like a good recommendation.
It is good. I do recommend it.
Oh, cool.
It was, yeah. It was based on a Neil Gaiman book.
God, he's a
Yeah,
fucking
and it
talented
stars
guy.
one of my favourite all-time voice actors, which is Keith David.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Keith David is the bomb.
He's got a great voice.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
I fell in love with his voice ever since I heard him in, what was it, the Disney shows?
Gargoyles?
Gargoyles.
Oh, man, that was a great one.
That was, yeah.
Oh, now you're making me want to go back and rewatch that show. That's
Yeah.
such a good show.
They didn't do anything else with that property, did they?
No,
No.
they should.
It was a TV series, a bunch of merch, and then
They could
just-
easily revamp that.
Oh yeah.
Totally. And the TV series did kind of start to go on the wayside the last
Yeah,
few seasons.
true,
But
true.
still, it was good. I enjoyed it.
You know, it'd be cool, like a cell shaded reboot,
Maybe.
like Borderlands style.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I reckon the dark gothic architecture and stuff would look really cool in that sort of aesthetic.
Maybe
Yeah,
a bit bright,
actually, you're
though.
right. I think that would work. Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
So anyway, so Coraline, definitely give that a watch. That's a good one.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
All right. So anyway, ciao.
See ya.
So yeah.
This podcast is recorded and produced by Theatre Gorillas. Edited by Dan Clark.
I'm a fun-seeking little. I'm a fun-seeking little. Jesus Christ.